So thanks everyone for coming to the night, and tonight we have 3 talks, very exciting ones, very different ones as well from each other, which is great. So we start with Anne, and she's going to take us through the process of how she builds an RPG, 20 steps or less, who knows?
Probably less. I mean, the 20 is just a threat.
Thanks, Anne.
Yay! About here, sort of, I think. Yeah. We're taking a bit of a departure from the normal Nerd Night catalogue today, because I'm introducing creative writing. So not that many algorithms, as long as you're prepared. Have you prepared yourself?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. As I said, it's a creative writing in the form of one-shot RPG, role-playing games, not the naughty kind. Again, I just want to emphasize.
Making me believe.
See, there's a thing. There's a thing I'm supposed to press here. Can I press it? It does things!
Hey.
Yay! When most people hear the term RPG, role-playing game, their association is something like this. It's Stranger Things, it's 80s, it's back when Dungeons & Dragons was basically the only thing that existed, the only system people could play with. But sometimes, and then again, time passed, nowadays we don't have to play with goblins and wizards if we don't want to. So we get to choose. And what we do when we want to choose and want to maybe do our own thing and write our own little story is you start with the what if. You start with a crazy idea, something that just sort of pops into your head. It could be something historical, a historical event, like maybe what actually happened during the Dyatlov Pass incident and was Bigfoot actually involved. It can be a mundane event such as a wedding. You can set up a group of friends to plan a wedding, and maybe it will get out that someone is secretly having an affair with the bride, or the groom, or both, at the same time. It happened. It can be based on a movie, it can be based on a book you've just read. You can base it on basically anything you want that you find interesting. So our focus tonight, that's where I found my inspiration. A few years ago, I should say some years ago, it's more than a few by now, I was unemployed. And for people who've been unemployed and been involved in that whole system, it sucks. Because you get invited to all these meetings with your union and with the job center, and they say, well, you could improve your CV by doing this and this and this, and well, sure, but does that make me more employable? Does it actually work? So they send you to, again, more meetings, more courses that you can do to expand your social media presence and whatnot. And one of the things that, it's been cropped. They basically throw anything at you to see what sticks. That's what it's supposed to say. But one of the things they do, I think it's sort of hinted at here, they do a thing that's called 6 weeks self-chosen course, direct translation. And what you basically do is they give you a catalogue, and then you can choose sort of, what do I think is interesting? What will make me more employable in my chosen field? But then, what if? What if you chose something that did not, in fact, make you more employable? What if the catalogue just didn't exist and you just chose whatever? Because then, what if you decided to use your 6 weeks studying something utterly useless? Such as clairvoyance. I mean, would it make you more employable? Stop it with your logic. Probably not, but we're writing a story. It's a fiction. It's supposed to be fun. And to get more fun, well, we try to step away from realism a bit. Hashtag not a Satanist. And when we have our premise ready, clairvoyance in unemployed people, we start with character creation. And when you're in a D&D campaign, again, some of you might have tried this, you get confronted with people bringing along sort of a rogue with a tragic backstory, half-elf thrown out of the village at a young age. When you're writing a one-shot, I have to make all the characters. I just have to hand them out to people when they step in the door. So I have to make them from scratch. And these are some of them in this particular one-shot. There's Beatrice, who's a former nail tech, mid-30s, likes to gossip a lot. Then there's Torben, he's a former bus driver, likes to take long walks in the woods, married for 33 years or so to his wife. There's Marie, who's a former teaching assistant, kindergarten level. She might be the only one actually who has actual real powers, which makes her interesting. And then there's Tobias, the cameraman, who's sort of been set up to follow them around to maybe make a video that'll go viral. There was a TV show at one point in Denmark called Åndernes Magt, The Power of the Spirits. It was silly. But basically it was clairvoyants running around smashing ashtrays and said, look what the ghost did! And then, because you need a person number 5, and you all know this person, right? It's Balthazar. We've all met a Balthazar. It was Ditto last time. Woo! Now, in choosing a name, in this case, what does the name Balthazar make you think of? What kind of person do you think he is?
Awesome.
He was so awesome.
Mean.
He was a bit of a narcissist.
Bit of a dick.
Bit of a drama queen, bit of a dick, probably, yeah. I mean, let's face it. Likes to be the center of attention, had a temper. And let's be honest, that's probably not his real name. He probably chose that for a reason. But that's the point of creating characters for other people. You need to make them sort of inspiring. You make them fun. To make it something that people will want to get involved with. So we have our premise, we have our characters. What else do we need? We need a narrative and setting. And those sometimes follow each other step by step. In this case, they really, really did. Because people who teach creative writing always tell you to write what you know. I know ghost stories, so it's definitely not haunted. In this case, as I said, the location and the narrative sort of became one and the same. We're leaving this group of people inside this house. They're not able to leave. They're secluded, and the entire story is going to revolve around this house. We're going to lock them up, and the narrative, well, that's going to be, why are they actually there? I mean, 1, they're probably there to see if it's haunted or not. 2, if it is haunted, what does the ghost actually want? We have to figure that out. And then 3, well, it turns out that's not really why they're there. But the characters don't know that. The players don't know that. They will learn. And in order to drive your game along, you sort of need a system. I mean, oftentimes you can make your own. We don't need D&D anymore. So we've decided against that. World of Darkness is sort of limiting, because then we'd all be pretending to be secret vampires, and that just doesn't really fit in here. Call of Cthulhu might work, because we could just watch the characters descend into insanity. But then I'd have to learn the rules, and then there'd be a lot of dice. And that would sort of detract from the story, because I want people to bring the story, to act the story. So to focus more on the story, I gave it a bit of a thought, and then I remembered that I once saw something on YouTube. I saw this guy. This is Will Wheaton of Star Trek fame, once upon a time. He has a great show, or he had a great show called Tabletop. They usually do board games. Famous actors, voice actors come and play games with him. But once in a while they descend into role-playing, and in this case they descended into Dread. And Dread is incredibly simple, but very effective as a system. Anyone can do it. In fact, I think we have a demonstration on that table over there. It consists of a game of Jenga, or Klodsmøver in Danish. So you set up the Tower of Dread, da, 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 and you begin playing. When the characters introduce themselves, you pull a brick, put it on top. If they want to do something spectacular, you pull a brick, put it on top. If they want a piece of equipment, sort of, I want to search the kitchen and find a very big knife because I don't want to go around this haunted house without a weapon, you make them pull a brick. It works like that. So, again, it's incredibly simple. The game in itself builds tension. Unlike dice, where there's a chance of failure, but also a chance of success at every throw, with the Tower of Dread, there's an eventuality. It will happen. The tower will fall at some point, and when it happens during the game, well, we'll see how bad it turns out. So, once we're done with Will Wheaton, we have a premise, we have characters, we have a setting, we have a narrative, we have a system in place. Then you play. Sort of. I mean, it takes time. First you work, and you work, and after hours and days and weeks and sometimes months of writing, you have a finished game. And then you set it up with a team of players, and you play it, and it's amazing. And it's fun, and it's tension, and it's failures and successes, and you get to watch the hope fade from their eyes as the tower drops to the table. It's wonderful. And in this engaging, funny, and or terrifying story, it ends. In 3 to 5 hours. All that work. But then, after that's over, I mean, you could just pick a new group of friends and do it again. And then again. And then again. And it sort of spreads like a fungus. It's wonderful. But seriously, it is a lot of work. But it's worth it, because you get to tell a story. You get to tell your story, and not just tell it, you get to live it. You get to watch other people live it with you. And all that emotion and joy and fear, it's almost magical in its own. Hashtag still not a sexinist. And also, if you have other very nerdy hobbies, pause. You get to crochet little monsters for them to fight. Also, shameless plugging, by the way. There are some postcards on the tables where Viking Con is next weekend. We are also the host of Copenhagen Board Game Festival. So if people want to attend that, that would be wonderful. Also, I brought gifts. Because I brought a sample of one of my latest scenarios. It's called Karen Quest.
Yay!
It's about being overly privileged, very white, Christmas shopping in the middle of America, and tried to beat someone to death with a crock. And tried to throw a green juice or chai latte at someone, and then just dice threw it on herself. It was wonderful.
It was a green juice.
It was wonderful. You were very good.
Thank you.
But anyone who wants gets a sample of this. It's 1.5 page, very easy to do, a lot of improv, a lot of comedy. So if you want, it's yours. Are there any questions?
Yeah.
There's a question.
What is a one-shot RPG?
Well, a one-shot in this case is a single-use scenario. In contrast to a campaign where you meet up with the same group of people every week, they bring their own character, you sort of bring the universe, I suppose, and the story. And then over a longer period of time, you play over a narrative arc, maybe years of adventures together with the same group. In this case, it's one and done. It's a couple of hours, and then it's over. It's a beginning, middle, and end in one. Birdie.
Yes.
So I'm a little confused about the Jenga approach.
Yep.
So if the Jenga tower falls, what does that mean exactly?
It means anything I want it to mean.
All right. So let's have an
If
example.
it was early, in that particular scenario, if it was early game, then the player who made it tumble disappears and is being held hostage by the bad guys at the end. If it tumbles during the final scene where everyone is battling this little guy, that is bad. That's real bad. Then the house sort of falls down on top of them and nobody's alive.
So do you
Spoilers.
sure? But do you plan chapters?
In this case, I planned 3 arcs, I guess. So there was an opening arc of the characters arriving at the haunted house. They've been given a task by...
So is he dead?
Alex is dead, I'm so sorry. The first act, I suppose, is them arriving at the house, being given this task of figuring out whether there is a ghost and is the ghost friendly or not. And then, well, the lights turn out and the doors lock and shutters cover all the windows and they're locked in until dawn. And they don't know why. They don't know why they've been set up in this place, so they just try to make the best of it in Act 2, where they go around in the house and find all the spooky things. And then Act 3, where everything turns to shit. Did it?
In a scenario like the one with the house, or if you have a bigger area, so to speak, in which you play, how much of this area where your players are situated, how much have you planned in advance to the game?
Well, it definitely depends. In this case, I had prepared a description of every room. I had drawn maps that I unfortunately did not include. A 2-story house, maybe between 7 and 10 rooms each story. So what can happen in the kitchen, what can happen in the gallery, what can happen in the living room, the bedrooms, the bathrooms were bad. Terrible things happen in the bathroom. In something like Karen Quest, which is incredibly short, it's basically all improv.
Okay.
So the characters, they get a name, they get a task, which is to buy Christmas presents, and then so much of it has to be made up. It has to be created from scratch, which is a lot of fun. And then, well, the one I tested last week is a jungle scenario. It's 51 pages long. It's so long. It took so long to write. So in that case, a lot of it is written out, exactly what can you encounter when. So it all depends on, well, what system you bother playing with, how much improv you're planning to include, how much you're leaving it up to the players to create of the story. It's completely up to you. I think I'm back first.
When you plan like what's going on in the different rooms
Yep.
and what can happen, then do you use the rooms so that if it's in the bathroom, that it is events that would normally happen in a bathroom, or particular things in the kitchen that are related to the function of the kitchen?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, again, I don't think I didn't bring it. If anyone wants a copy, I can send it, but I'll spoil it for you. In the bathroom, nasty things can crawl out of the bathtub or out of the bathroom mirror. In the gallery, per se, there's a very strange moving painting. In the kitchen, well, if you drank the coffee or ate the sandwiches, there might be some sort of hallucinogenic in there. So it definitely always use the setting that you've created, because it also makes it makes the most sense, and also lulls the players into a false sense of safety. I mean, they arrive at a house, they've been invited. it's the afternoon and sun is shining and there's coffee ready and sandwiches and cookies, and who wouldn't want to just sit down and plan out, well, we brought it Tobias the cameraman, he's gonna set up cameras here and here, and then we're gonna make it look real spooky, but it's not really gonna be because it's just fake. And then it turns real spooky real fast.
Right. So how do you deal with players who are willing to explore outside of your boundaries as a GM? So if you've set up a boundary in the garden and they're trying to jump the fence, what do you do in that scenario?
I would probably have to improvise real fast why they couldn't do that. In this case, it was sort of easy because part of the premise is that they can't leave. They've been locked in, and the owner of the house has locked them in this case. So he's thought of every eventuality. In other cases where people go off-grid and do crazy things, I mean, sometimes you just have to roll with it, have to improvise your way out, make it make sense is the best way. I mean, telling the player no feels horrible, both because I can usually not justify a no. It's like, no, you can't do that because I said so. It doesn't really work. So I would have to make up a reason why that would not work. Like maybe there are giant thorns in the hedge and they can't get through, they can't jump over because they don't have a ladder, or I'd have to find a way around why that action was not possible, or allow it to be possible and then see where that goes. I mean, some scenarios are open to improv. You had a fast hand there?
Yeah, I'm wondering, as someone who works on writing these things, if you have
cool.
opinion. No, I mean you.
Oh, me. I thought you meant yourself, sorry.
I wonder if you have an opinion about these like AI-based systems that can be used to generate these kind of games that can be used as a master. If you try, I don't know if you have like an ideological opinion about them or something.
I've never tried. Well, that would rob me of an experience, I guess, if I was to rely on that. I mean, writing the scenario it's definitely for the end product. It's definitely to bring happiness to the players and to myself while playing. But it's also, I guess, an intellectual exercise in creative writing. It's, can I make this make sense? Can I create this story in a way that makes me proud? And that actually works practically at a table. And sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. I mean, having a machine create that, I mean, there are tons of software out there that can create fake plays, fake novels even, and the product is sometimes good, sometimes not so good. I would imagine that giving the parameters of a set system, such as Dungeons & Dragons, where there are rules if the rogue is flanking the goblin or troll or whatever, I mean, having a bunch of algorithms to base your action around, I feel would probably make it much easier for a machine to make it than an actual person, because I am shit at remembering rules. How it would actually work? I mean, it would depend on the story, I suppose. We'd have to try.
One last question over there?
Yeah. How do you decide how much to leave up to a chance to improv and what to decide beforehand?
I get surprised a lot. I mean, again, I test played a scenario just last week, jungle scenario, sending a couple or a group of adventurers into Honduras to look for a lost city. And in this case, I had included some details that they wanted explained. And I had not researched anything, so I was just, well, you find this altar, and it has sort of these grooves that probably used to lead some sort of fluid away from the altar and into this little hole, into the temple, sort of. Was it used for human sacrifice? It was probably definitely used for human sacrifice. But what does that mean? Well, you know from ancient Aztec lore that human sacrifice was often used as a means of providing luck on a hunt or in battle, or to change the weather to be more favorable. And then some. Sometimes the players will react to things that you've not anticipated at all. And sometimes I add a ton of detail that they don't know to ask for. And that's it's so bitter. I mean, in this one, there's a whole backstory for the guy who owns the haunted house, and his family going back 3 generations, and what his grandpa did during World War II. No one knows to ask for that shit.
What's the important?
I mean, he was a collaborator. Also, he killed a little girl, so he was a bad man, very bad man. But some things you cannot anticipate. You can only do your best. You can figure out, well, what would I in this situation think was super interesting? So I'm a clerk in a bookshop in everyday life. So a lot of the clues turned out to be like verbal. So it's like you find this scrap of newspaper, or you find this old book that has this strange inscription. It's like, okay, all of my clues are books. This is weird. It turned out to sort of work, but it was remarked upon. So sometimes you can anticipate what's going to be important and what's not. Most of the time, you fly by the seat of your pants.
Okay, thank you so much, Anne.